Hello, my name is Daniel Benfeld, and I am the project manager for this proposed project of Mama Shelter in Cape Town, South Africa. I'm here along with my colleagues to present to you our planned proposal project. So I am along with Gaëtan, Tong, Sahana, and Elisa. This is our table of contents for the presentation, and this is our team. So I'm Daniel from Orlando, and then we have Elisa from Italy, Gaëtan from Poland, Sahana from India, and Tong from China. And this is our organizational chart. As I said before, I am the project manager. Sahana is the sales and revenue management department. Gaetan is from operations development management. Tong is from human resources management. And Elisa is from quality assurance and risk management. And this is our breakdown. Sahana did the scope and cost management. I did procurement and stakeholders. Elisa did risk and quality. Tong did communications and resource management. And Gaetan did integration and time schedule management. So just to give you a little executive summary of Mama Shelter, the brand started in 2008 in Paris, and now it has expanded globally. Just to give you some of the business opportunities that Mama Shelter is focusing on is the COVID revenge consumption. Everyone was locked in their homes, and now they are currently trying to find ways to spend their money and get back that lost time being stuck in quarantine. Mama Shelter is very focusing on looking for the next luxury traveler and how they're continuing to pave the path of luxury. And then expansion in key places like Africa. Africa is proposed to have 262 billion in hospitality and leisure consumption by 2030. So Mama Shelter is looking to expand in that market, especially with a project like Cape Town. And then future identity, Mama Shelter has about 19 new projects in the pipeline to come. And some things that Mama Shelter is focusing on is brand differentiation, personalization, customization, and creating a positive footprint in the world in terms of CSR, not just sustainability, but also in the communities where they create these iconic locations, and furthering some market research and advertisement and marketing initiatives. And I will pass it on to Gaëtan for the roadmap.
Yes, so I'm going to go ahead with the roadmap of Mama Shelter. So in 2022, the deliverables will be opening a new Mama Shelter in Lisboa, Paris, La Défense, and also Dubai. And in general, they want to continue to expand overseas. The milestone will be to launch reputation management and guest survey system. And the strategic objective of 2022 will be to succeed in recovering after this COVID-19 crisis. Let's go with 2023. So the strategic objective of this year, it will be to raise a brand awareness in emerging markets, strengthen the Middle East market, and boost also the global presence of the brands. Regarding the milestones, they want to enter into the Middle East market to increase the presence of the brand with an innovative hospitality offering in key location and gateway cities. Regarding the deliverables, they want to, following the Dubai opening, also Abu Dhabi, Bahrain Mama Shelter will be launched. Regarding the 2024 years, the strategic objective will be to enhance the brand image and owning more properties in Europe markets. About milestones, they want to keep expanding the brand in Europe by entering in Switzerland markets. And the deliverables will be to open the first Mama Shelter in Switzerland in near Zurich in the second half of 2024. Regarding 2025, the strategic objective will be to focus on inculcating more personalization, technology, and streamlining service delivery. Regarding milestone, it will be launch of Mama Shelter mobile application. And about deliverable, it will be to project pitch with implementation of at least 2 new units of innovation regarding mobile app. The 2026, the strategic objective will be to, in the spirit of promoting Mama Shelter's brand with its unique design, the hotel brand will focus on a more sustainable approach to its building material and also decor. About milestone, they want to open properties in an iconic location that focus on CSR, on the community and environment. And about deliverables, they want to develop an official design with sustainable materials such as flooring in Belgrade location. Regarding the last year, 2027, the strategic objective will be to become fully self-independent in terms of water recycling, alternating the way of power source. Milestone, it will be to be 100% self-sufficiency. And regarding deliverables, they want to develop methods to create innovative and sustainable solutions. Okay, so I will present you now the integration part. This part allows you to describe the project in its entirety and gives the first notion such as stakeholders, the objective. This document is important because it is very useful for the rest of the project management. So regarding the project charter, the executive sponsor will be our investor. The department sponsor will be Serge Trigano. Our project customer will be our suppliers and vendors. The impact of the project is to bring awareness of the brand and social impact on the local community by creating job opportunities in South Africa. The expected starting date, it's just right now, so in March 2022. And then our expected completion date, it's in February 2024. Okay, so now we're going to see our 4th point, so the project scope statement. So Mama Shelter property being launched for the first time in South Africa in Capetown. So the boutique hotel will feature with 75 rooms and 3 categories, including small, medium, and large. Each room will have a view on the water. There will be 2 F&B offering restaurants, so one featuring South African cuisine with 45 covers, and another with Thai restaurant accommodating 40 covers. So since each Mama Shelter property display a concept connecting with the local market, the Capetown property will be aquarium theme as a venue to promote the vast wildlife and of the continent itself, for sure. There will be a spa also and traditional South African treatments, which will be outsourced. Okay, thank you, Daniel. So regarding our assumption and constraints, so the first one is our, let's go with our assumption. So the first assumption is we assume that there is corruption in the country and therefore concerns the safety of the residents. So this will be the responsibility of the project manager. The second one, it's rewriting there could be many water cuts in South Africa too. It will be also responsible of project sponsor. The third one is going to be the construction period will be respected and on time. It is also the project manager responsibility. The fourth one, it is that they assume that there will be power cuts in this area. This will be project sponsor responsibility. And the final assumption is that there is environmental disaster and water problems. It's also project sponsor responsibility. So let's go through with our constraints now. So the first constraint, like project budget limitation. So we need to balancing the cost and the scope. It will be the project manager responsibility. The second constraint is COVID-19. We know that it's still a constraint for this project. It will be project manager responsibility. Our third constraint, it will regarding the construction team should be in a local, but engineering, construction, petrochemical and mining sectors showed only 46% of the projects were considered successful. So this will be also project manager responsibility. And the last constraint is regarding the regulation for the labor working hours during the opening. It may have some overtime work with extra pay, but it won't work if an employer and employee make an agreement because of the limitation of working hours. It will also be the project manager responsibility. Okay, so let's finish the integration part with change management. So our change management approach, in our case, a change is made when we have to make a modification following an approval. So for the change management approach, the first step is to know who is going to be in charge of this change within the project to determine who will take care of different parts. The committee needs to determine what change can be made and whether they're feasible in short-term time. If a change is to be made, the team responsible for the change should be brought together with the project manager to draw up a new plan to continue on the right track. Okay, and for the change control board, So we have different roles. So we have owners who will take in charge of global changes and agree their authorities to checking the report. We have the project manager who is decide if the change is possible and feasible over time. The change committee decide to request a change, and customer request a change due to an issue. Okay, thank you so much. And this is the knowledge area summary for our project integration.
Coming to the scope of the project, next slide, please. We first have the project scope statement, and in this template, we outline the description of the project itself, and also we try to understand better the scope within the project and the all of the factors that are excluded from the project, are constraints, assumptions, and also the deliverables. Next slide, please. This is the work breakdown structure, and under this, we've identified massive chunks of work categories that would make it easier to understand the plan of action and the various tasks that are to be done in the opening of the hotel itself. This is a continuation of the same template. The work breakdown structure dictionary explains each of the work package that comes under the categories. For example, this is to help people who are not familiar with the definition of these terms to get a better understanding and make it clear about what is entailed in each of these categories. With the scope statement, we identified the base framework in defining the project itself. It helped us to outline the requirements, understand the budget required to with these resources, and also estimate a completion schedule approximately. The scope statement also has a few interdependencies with other knowledge areas of this project. For example, it was used in creating the activity list. It also helps define clear categories for the cost templates in estimating all of our budgets. And it was also used to make the resource calendar under the resource category.
Okay, so now I will go with our schedule management plan. So first I will go through our milestone list. So first milestone start on the 1st of March 2022 with our project fundraising. So for that, we need to contacting investor, banks, shareholders in order to raise the necessary financial capital for the construction and opening of the hotel. The second milestone, I will go with onboarding of project management integration for the project of opening a mama shelter in Capetown, South Africa. The next milestone is to decide for sure on the location. So the opening of the hotel is planned in Capetown. The location is already decided. Let's go through our legal aspects. So we have to contact all necessary authorities in order to carry out the construction, building permits, environmental standards, license is already done. So then the validation in 1st of December 2022, we have the agreement to build and operate our hotel. This is a mandatory. Then we go through our architecture. So we have already agreed on the architecture of the hotel, the layout, the design, the lights, the size of the hotel. Then we have the construction already completed on the 1st of January 2022 with our construction of the mama shelter at its designated location and depending on African labor. Then we are going to recruit our core teams. So the core teams is hired a few weeks in advance to ensure that the hotel operation can get a kickstart in terms of planning. This includes the general manager, executive chef, front office manager, executive housekeeper, and so on. Then we are going through our hotel design. So design and decorate the hotel with room, restaurant, lobby, spa, and bar. Put all the IT system with fire alarm, micros, opera is already done. Then we have our hotel verification and hotel remise. So we need to verify that our hotel is done and in order to welcome our guests. Then in 1st of February 2024, we go through our soft opening with the first opening of our hotel. And finally, also in the same month, in February 2024, we go with our Mama Shelter Capetown opening. So it's the first Mama Shelter in South Africa. Okay, now let's go with our activity list. So regarding our activity list, I will go with the most important activity and description of work. We need first to recruit a general manager. The general manager is responsible for overseeing in all activities relating to business operation and hiring the core team. Then set up the pre-opening, so preparation of the objectives of the hotel and setting standards for the operational functions. Then I go with recruit the core team. So as I said before, the core team is hired a few weeks in advance to assure that the hotel operation can kickstart in terms of planning. Then I will go with sign a laundry outsourcing contract because we will have the outsourcing laundry. So we need to contracting a third party the responsibility of laundering service of the hotel. Then we need to recruit the rest of the team. So recruitment involves identifying, screening, and interviewing candidates based on job description to ensure that they fit to our company, our Mama Shelter company. Then we need for sure to train our core values of Mama Shelter. So once the corporate office has created its company profile, we need to establish its culture. The recruited employees must be trained to ensure that they are alienated with the core values of the Mama Shelter company. Then we need to prepare the pre-opening budget. So document detailing all expenses in preparation of the hotel opening. Then open the hotel with commencement of hotel operation and availability of service for sale. And then the final one is check defects rectification. So we need to ensure that all defects are rectified and the hotel is properly functioning for opening as predetermined standards. And this is our knowledge area summary for our project time management plan. Thank you.
Coming to the cost estimate for the project, we use the bottom-up cost estimating method to understand various costs that we can assign to each of our work packages. So the approximate that we got was 9 million South African currency, which is around 650,000 US dollars. Next slide, please. We also use the pre-opening budget for cost baseline to understand when exactly we would be spending or when we would be acquiring these costs. And for example, with the general manager being hired 11 months in advance to the pre-opening, that's when our cost for his salary, for example, would start accumulating. And similarly with hiring the core team and buying the operational equipment and supplies, which is a one-time purchase. Next slide, please. We use the activity cost estimates to understand the exact amount and distribution for each work package. For example, taking the example of sales and marketing, we identified the direct costs and indirect costs including labor, travel, material, supplies, and equipment. And for each of these costing methods, we kept a reserve of 25% to give us a range to work within. And that gave us our estimate for each of the work packages. Also, the confidence level we're at is 95% because these values have been identified based on survey estimates and also looking at similar properties operating in South Africa to Mama Shelter. The cost templates help us understand when to procure our resources and how much it would cost us. As mentioned before, 25% of the estimate is a reserve. There is also an interconnectivity within each of these estimates because they all add up to the same value to make sure that all of our estimates in terms of direct, indirect, material, supply, and all of those other values are the same in all of the templates. And as mentioned before, the value estimate has a confidence level of 95% because of our sources in finding these values.
Okay, let's talk about quality management. In the quality management plan, we need to consider the different stakeholders that play a crucial role in terms of the quality in all the pre-opening phase. They all have different responsibilities and tasks to solve, and somehow they also overlap. And we need to make sure that at the end we can serve the best quality to our guests. For example, the executive chef has to do regular checks on products and make sure that surfaces in the kitchen are clean. We need also to consider inviting people to try out menu tasting. For example, the housekeeping manager needs to ensure that the safety and the hygiene on the cleanliness of the rooms and all the public areas is given. And also he needs to also check the laundry, the integrity of the linen, and check the availability and do some orders. And for example, we have the HR manager. He needs to go through interviews, different interview levels, to make sure that we have employees with a certain qualification, and to ensure that we are also in the timeline for the opening. Let's go to the next slide and see the metrics. For the quality metrics, we analyzed all the different departments, and there are different metrics that ensure quality, that help us to verify if the quality standards are given. For example, for employee satisfaction, we can do monthly internal surveys, and we think that 80% would be a good value for that. Then, for example, for customer satisfaction, we can analyze guest reviews on Google and on the OTAs. And for this, a value of 4.5 would be considered as good. Other metrics for financial indicators would be the average daily rate or the revenue per room. And we need also consider the sustainability metrics, because we're in a country where waste management and water management as energy management play an important role. We can go to the next slide. Quality management planning is to make sure to meet the guest satisfaction, and for that we need to introduce guidelines, checklists for validating the consistency of the service, but also that the hotel meets the quality standards of the hotel group. And this quality management plan describes how the quality is managed throughout every department and through the whole life cycle of the pre-opening. In the quality control approach, we ensure that the quality is given, maintained, and we can improve it. Therefore, we follow systems to control the quality, as in the pre-opening, as operating manuals, so-called SOPs. The quality improvement approach is to evaluate the performance of the pre-opening and determines the improvement or the areas we need to improve, and highlights all the steps we need to take before the guests will arrive. And it's very important that all of this process never stops and also continues when the hotel will be open.
Okay, so my part is going to talk about the resource, mainly the human resource. In the human resource management plan, we have internal rules, including the project manager who is responsible to decision-making within pre-opening, and the manager and manage the relationship with the investors. General manager responsible for ensuring the regular report to the owner, And the other departments manager who will be focused the SOP developing and training requirements within the department. And so for the staff management plan, we plan to do some research on LinkedIn for some potential talents managers. At the same time, post the job position on the Mama Shelter official website. That's what they do in other properties. And also post on the South Africa's government jobs portal, since it's the #1 employment website in South Africa. And we can have intern from Swiss Hotel School, South Africa, which we can build up a long-term relationship with them. For the staff release, we will use the punch card system is for assist the HR monitor, the working hours, also for protecting the employees from overworking, which the local labor regulation doesn't allow. And the next slides, please. Thank you. Here is the resource calendar may depend on the WBS. So first we will rent the pre-opening office. Then for procurement, we will purchase the equipment and supplies that need in the construction and the training. We will need safety protection like hard hat and safety shoes for team members going into the construction site. We will also need to order the uniform after the recruitment, renting a classroom from local management school. They already got like a projector, whiteboard and pen for the generic training. But what should be noticed is the classroom won't be open in the weekend and the holiday. So it will meet the local public holiday, which is the day of reconciliations in December. And a practice kitchen will be needed at the same time before training and until the simulation training starts. And about the training requirements, the most important training should have here is the brand history and culture for every employees, and decrease the discrimination by having the course about racial gender equity. And the simulation training will be like a soft opening for a few weeks, making the whole hotel working and see if there any problem exists as an evaluation of the training. And here are the rewards, recognition, and regulation standards. Mama of the month is like employees of the month. Will be reward and judge them as potential talent employees. And competition of the speed of the rooms cleaning and housekeeping department. It also play as an rule as an evaluation of training. And here are some regulation in South Africa. And employer cannot require or permit an employee to work more than 45 hours in any week. So for frontline staff, they will be required to work for 8 hours a day and 5 days in a week. The night auditor are required to work overnight, and every frontline staff will be able to work in public holiday with an extra allowance. For the office and management level employees, they will be required to work 9 hours a day and working from Monday to Friday. There are also a local labor regulation saying that on the December in every year, the employees who were employed for 12 a month must be rewarded with their 1 week salary. A small summary here, safety are always the most important things by follow the local labor regulations and the timeline. And next will be the communication part. This is the project communication analyze worksheet. And I will highlight 3 most important communication that influence the project. The communication of project teams make sure that they are on the right track and have clear understanding of the property needs and goals. Second, we need to keep reporting the status of the project and the standard of the construction to the government in order to decrease the possibility of rework after the construction. Third, with suppliers and vendors, negotiate to decrease the cost and maximum the cost effectiveness. And about the project communication plan, what should be noticed is the communication to the customer by the sales and marketing. Those are the potential customer that from the check-in information of other mama shelters properties. And assumption constraints. There usually will have power cut in South Africa. And of course, now COVID is the biggest constraint for face-to-face meetings. And yeah, so this is the end of my part, and Elisa is going to talk more about the project risk.
Yes. Before we continue with the next part, we are going to take a scheduled break for Zoom because we do not have Zoom Premium, so we will log back on and continue with the next part of our PowerPoint. But thank you for listening along right now. Thank you.
Okay, let's talk about the project risk. Next slide. Next, yeah. We have to consider a project risk committee. These are all the people that we need to consider for risk management. They all have different roles, different responsibilities, and different tasks to solve, to decrease or minimize or control the risk. For example, the hotel owner, he oversees he has the ultimate decision making, and he also oversees the strategic decision making, the board meetings. He stays in contact with investors and looks for the financing of the project. The investor, in terms of risk, has to calculate his return on investment. He needs to to make sure that he provides enough financial aid in order to ensure the opening of the hotel. For example, the project manager, he's responsible for planning, organizing, and directing and completing the project, and also in the pre-opening phase. And these are all the persons we need to consider, and we need to evaluate their risk, their responsibilities, so that we can make sure things don't go the right way. Next slide, please. We analyzed the risk calendar. The risk calendar tells us all the important events that take place, local events, of course, within the whole year. So, for example, we analyzed sport events, for example, the Netball World Cup, or the annual public holidays. We also analyzed the periods of the year where we could have problems with weather or elections, and all of these events have to be analyzed in order to evaluate when to do the pre-opening, when to plan everything, because obviously it needs to be considered. We also analyzed the year 2024, but we haven't found any important events for the months January, February, where we will be opening the hotel. Next slide. Then in the risk breakdown structure, we categorized the risk into technical, operational, commercial, and external risks. This is important to keep in mind and when we see the probability and the impact later in the second slide. Next one. Yeah, here we analyze those risks I explained before, and we can see the risk with the highest impact and the highest probability. For example, water problems or water shortage. We know that in Cape Town there is a water crisis there has been a water crisis period where we have water shortage, and this obviously needs to be considered in the pre-opening. Also the electricity outage where we have problems like load shedding, and all of these things need to be considered when we open the hotel, but also in planning and in the construction phase. In the next slide. Here you can see all the different risk events. We categorized the events into schedule or quality, for example, for technical risk with a high probability and high impact. We have different impacts like the delays in construction or the delay of the opening, but also in terms of cost, it can be that we need more, that we overrun the budget or need more financial aid. And therefore, we defined response actions. For example, we need to be in steady contact with the contractors and the technicians to see and solve the problems right when we define them. And this is very important to analyze in order to know where can problems happen and what can we do. For example, the water problem helps us to see what we need to do, what steps we have to take. For example, check regularly the water supply, and also in the pre-opening, see if we can introduce some alternatives for water supply. Next slide. Yeah, to sum up, we have seen the risk calendar that highlights the most important events. In the risk breakdown structure, we categorized everything. In the matrix, we saw the probability and the impact, and the risk response plan helps us to analyze the cause, the impact, and what we're gonna do to react at this risk. And all of this happens in the with the risk of the highest probability.
Perfect, and I will take over with project stakeholders. The stakeholders is one of the most crucial parts to consider because it's everyone included in your project, from the top where management and investors to the bottom where your team members are, your customers, and everyone in between. So we have our internal stakeholders and our external stakeholders here defined. We have Serge Trajano, who's the owner and creator of Mama Shelter, and then Accor, who acquired Mama Shelter in 2014 as a small percentage, and then in 2021 they purchased the whole brand. We have all of the management, including the project management team, our team members, middle level and bottom level, and then our investors. And then the external stakeholder side, we have the community of South Africa, our consumers, the local government, suppliers, vendors, and competitors. Basically, for all of this to have a good approach to the project is thinking of a win-win approach. You make everyone happy, your project is going to be happy, your customers are going to be happy, and everyone. You have to consider that decisions, whether you're building somewhere affects the community, the environment, the government around. It all factors into how you're going to get a license or a permit for the building. So you have to consider everything to be a win-win approach. And then this is the stakeholder classification matrix, essentially how high of a power or how high of an interest does someone have in your project. It's very important to consider all aspects of that because someone can essentially make the project a living hell if you do not involve them in a good way. Going on to the stakeholder engagement assessment matrix. This is basically presenting in the current where your stakeholder is and then where you want them to be. So you want Accor essentially to be currently leading, and then also you desire them to be leading in the future, and so on. And then this is the stakeholder engagement plan and how we expect to engage with them for the So On project with communication, engagement tools, what part of the project plan they're going to be involved in, and so on and so forth. And then these are just some of the summary points for stakeholders. So developing a clear engagement strategy to influence our stakeholders and create a supportive relationship, factoring in the intentions of all stakeholders to maintain a positive CSR, so not just sustainability of the environment, but also in the community, the local government, make sure that we're not doing anything to offend the local culture, just incorporating everything in a positive manner. And then project procurement, which is essentially all of the purchasing, all of the acquiring of goods and services for our team. So we did a scope of work statement as an example for our laundry outsourcing. So we define one, the company we are working with, and then all of the limitations, all of the confidentiality, termination, desired outlined here. We want our services to begin 3 weeks prior so we can get all of our linens set up and we could do our pre-opening phases and have that all set up for us. And then this is just a continuation of the scope of work and our deliverables, how exactly we want them to be in the metrics. So our hand towels are 600 GSM and all of our deliverables are outlined right here. And then all of the labor associated with the pickup, collection, drop off from internally and then externally. And for our costs, we decided to have a fixed price contract. So essentially we pay for washing one towel will be a certain price, and then we multiply by the amount of towels that we'll wash in a service. And then continuation of scope of work, all of our stakeholders involved, internally, externally, the laundry corporation. And then the procurement management plan, which we defined all of the metrics and conversion tools and the ratios that we are going to use for our project, and using procurement plans and dividing out the responsibilities of the project manager and the procurement department. And then also what we value with our selection criteria. So we want 100% quality, also 100% looking at price, 80% time and schedule. We planned everything out prior and giving us enough time so we can work with things. And then 60% ethics and CSR. And then this is a continuation with all of our metrics and ratios, different things like our compliance rate, vendor availability, all of the most important parts of procurement to understand how ordering is used and how we can measure our suppliers and vendors and our relationships with them. And then these are the main points. Also, a summary, creating a mutually beneficial contractual agreement with our suppliers and vendors, and then understanding our KPIs using the metric measurements, and then selecting criteria for deliverables is essential about the price, the quality, the time, and all those important factors. And I will pass it on to Sahana with our conclusion.
Coming to the conclusion of our project management plan, we see that there is a steady increase in the tourism prospect of South Africa, which gives Mama Shelter access to a very valuable market. And with 192 international brands in the region, the market is also quite competitive. And we think with our project management plan that coordinates cost, scope, and time elements, it is a viable plan to go forward with this project and give us a clear plan of action. Thank you for your time.